morning. Good morning, Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We have a special musical guest this morning to bring music during our prelude segment, as well as announcements. We'll be scrolling, so we want to make sure that you know we're comforting you, we are serving you through the creative arts, as well as announcements. So please welcome cellist extraordinaire Jen Cornell. Good morning. Jen Cornell, so fabulous. As she's striking her equipment, I want to just invite you to make sure that you stop by her merchandise table and say hello after service. So if we could have some support on stage to help her strike that equipment. Oh, no, actually, you have one more song coming up. That's right, during service. Yeah, just leave it. Yeah, absolutely. As I get untangled from my mask. How are you? I feel so good. You know, it's really welcome. Talk about welcome home. Our opening song is You Are Welcome Here. It's You Are Welcome Home. You are welcome to wholeness. That's what comes to mind when I hear Jen's work. She is so anchored in the moment, so anchored in her instrument. Don't you agree? Just fabulous. Jen Cornell. Please stand as we sing our opening song. And good morning online. We are so glad you're here. There is a place in my heart where I can find the truth. You can sing along. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. When we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yes, there is a place in this world with open arms right now. Put your hands together. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. And be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. See with new eyes, isn't that true? Allow and unfold, embrace and let go. Trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we can ever be apart. No matter who, what you call yourself, where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Yeah. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know, let it go. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here. Yes, you are. Good morning, everyone. Please be seated. Please welcome Baji Daniels.
Good morning. Yes, we're so much more when we unite. And this morning, I am here to let you know that I proudly serve as one of the practitioners. And I want you to know that we are a center that educates and engages the seeker on their spiritual path. We're also a member of the global movement Centers for Spiritual Living. Our mission is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And I love when we say our vision together. Our vision is a world that works for everyone. We are grateful for your presence this morning. And I invite you now to join me as we say together our call for service. How I choose to think creates my personal experience. Therefore, I choose to think affirmatively. I choose to speak affirmatively. I choose to live affirmatively. Not only is this my right, it is my responsibility as a conscious being. I allow myself to be guided, used, and available for the reawakening of everyone's magnificence. The moment is now, and I say yes, and so it is. And now our announcements.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello, I am Burnett Sherman, and I am a member of the Creative Arts team here at SLCA. Welcome, everyone. Whether it is your first time, you are coming and watching us online from home, or you are a member, SLCA is where you belong. I'm excited to tell you about opportunities to connect, grow, serve, and give at our center. For more information about today's announcements, please take a moment to scan the QR code, which is found in the back of the seat in front of you. We'd like to thank you, each of you who give faithfully to SLCA. To find ways to give, visit our digital program or see the information on the screen. We will do our grateful giving later on in the service. If you're interested in dance auditions with choreographer Penny Shellman for the SLCA Universal Spirit Dance Troupe, please email Penny at thepennyproject, which is THEPENIPROJECT @gmail.com for more information. Prepare a 30-second dance audition if you'd like to do that to a song of your choice. Yeah. Reverend Susan Zoller is facilitating Living the Science of Mind, gathering every Wednesday at 7 p.m. This opportunity will be offered both in person, will be offered only on Zoom. Our monthly SLCA Writers Group with Kathy Ellis will meet this Thursday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:45 Eastern Time. SLCA is proud as a proud sponsor of the 2021 Global Village Welcome Walk. Join us as we come together to celebrate and welcome immigrants and refugees to our local community and reaffirm to them our commitment to make this a refuge for refugees, a safe place for them to live and to thrive. Sign up to wear your SLCA t-shirt and walk with us. The walk is 5 miles and will begin promptly at 9:30 a.m. on November the 6th. There is a $20 donation to participate in the walk, and proceeds will go to the Global Village Project. If you're unable to join us for this event, please consider designating a donation that we can provide. Join us November 7th for a special service to honor our practitioners and our ministers. We will also celebrate 42 years as a center. That's worthy of applause. So plan to stay after service for an important town hall meeting. If you are joining us online, please sign up today for your Zoom link. To register for each of these opportunities, please visit our website at slca.com or scan the QR code in the lobby after service. Practitioners are available this morning for prayer after service, both in person and online chat. If you wish to receive affirmative prayer, our online practitioner will provide their email so you can arrange a time. For in-person treatment, our practitioners will be found after service on both sides and at the back of the room. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you.
And now it is time for prayer. And so you know what to do. Repose yourself comfortably in your chair. Remove things from your lap and open your heart. Close your eyes if you choose. And I'm going to begin this morning with a prayer from a monk. It's a bodhisattva prayer for all humanity. And this is what he asked. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. As we receive those words into our being, this is what I know. I know that there is a powerful force in the universe, and that this force is what I call God. I know its nature. I know its nature is love and strength and beauty and kindness and compassion and health and wealth. I know its nature as me. And what is my nature is the nature of each and every other person, whether they are conscious of it or not. For truly, we are all one. And so I affirm this morning that what you came here to receive is what you get. That you brought open ears, open heart, and you receive into your vessel the message, the enlightenment, the clarity that you are seeking. I bless our service today. I bless our spiritual leader, Dr. David. I bless all of those who are attending our needs this morning in the capacity as musical gifts, ushers, greeters, practitioners, and you. Your presence is a treasure. And so I know that we are already highly blessed and fulfilled. And I simply celebrate us together as one. And I release my word, knowing that it goes into this immutable law that has already received what has been offered and said yes, and it is done, and together we affirm, and so it is.
With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. As I open and allow, I know right here and now, I create a world where wonders never cease. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. Through me. Once again, please welcome Jen Cornell.
right. Jen Cornell, again, give it up for Jen. Amazing. She's got her CDs and products in the back. I invite you to visit that after the service. What was the King Center Honors Beloved Community Award? Yes, Beloved Community Award recipient from the King Center this last year. Atlanta music royalty right there, right here at SLCA. So you had an evening out at a concert, and all you had to do was come to church. Come on, somebody. And that's Penelope Williams, our music director, who always brings us such amazing quality locally and all over. Good morning, SLCA. It is good to be home. I've been traveling a bit, Oregon and Detroit, doing some work for Centers for Spiritual Living, and it is good to be home. Did you enjoy Bishop Flunder last week? Yes. If you didn't watch that, please go back and watch it. I had to watch it 2 times and take notes and really get into the depth of what she was offering us. She is a dear friend and a mentor to me, and speaking of royalty, she's gospel royalty and church royalty. If you've seen the Netflix series, what's it called? Summer of Soul, about the music festival that happened at the same time as Woodstock. All right, so when you're watching that, there'll be a section in there about the Edwin Hawkins singers. And you will see them performing, and they're singing "Oh Happy Day." And the woman on stage singing "Oh Happy Day" is Shirley Miller. Shirley Miller, gospel royalty, is Bishop Yvette's partner. They've been together for over 35 years, something like that. So anyway, just a little connection there for you. We'll go back and watch that. You'll have some connection to that. Congratulations, Atlanta Braves. We've got some Brave fans in the house. All right. Amen. That's good. It's been a while. 1999 since they've been there, so now you got to take care of the Dodgers, and I would appreciate that as a Cardinal fan if you could do that. I'm with you all the way. All right. So, we'll talk. Yes, that's what I meant. They already took care of the Dodgers. Right, that part's done. Take care of Houston. All right, let's get it straight. No offense to any of us viewing from Texas. We still love you. We do have people viewing. I want you to know I've been over there just checking in. We got people from Minnesota this morning, and Oregon, and Kansas City, and California. We have practitioners, by the way, in all of those places as well. Savannah, Georgia. Today's outline for today's talk. Our themes are supported by ministers and practitioners in the field who pull together quotes that relate to the title or the theme. And today's theme, which is Dig Deep, was pulled together by our very own Scheherazade Taylor in Savannah, Georgia. So shout out to her. I know she's watching this morning as well. And so across the movement of Centers for Spiritual Living, we're talking today about digging deep in this monthly theme of going further together, that we go further together. And last week, Bishop Flunder told us that we need to wait for each other. Wait for me. Right? And she was referencing the letters of Paul and calling people together. Wait for me. Right? What does it mean when we come to dine together or to be together? The power to build coalitions and wait for each other and create that space. But waiting can be hard, right? And it can be hard to hear the call to wait for somebody when we just want to go with the people who look like us. Or we just want to get together with the people who think like us. Or we just want to do something with the people who agree with us. Am I talking to anybody? But when we have to wait for each other and wait for those who perhaps hold a different experience, hold a different viewpoint, hold a different outlook, then it becomes a little bit harder to do that waiting. Because we look around and we think, okay, everybody agree? We all know how we're voting? We all know how we feel about that? All right, let's go. And we think we got everybody. We might be leaving some people out, right? Especially in spiritual community. So I'm going to talk about that a bit today and how we do that, because the truth is we have become so divided on the surface And I want to be very clear about how I say that. So divided on the surface, the appearance of our division and polarities in society today are surface divisions. But in order to get, now they're surface, but they're real, right? They have real impact. They have real consequences in the experience that people have in their lives, with their capacity to do things, etc. We're talking about human rights and access and all of those things. So I'm not diminishing the impact of that division, but I want to be very clear about where the division is. It's on the surface. And so in order to get through that and get past that, we're going to have to dig deep, right? We're going to have to dig deep. What does it mean to dig deep? Well, first of all, I want to talk about what it doesn't mean, because I think we've gotten confused a little bit. I've seen too many people doing the exact opposite of what I would call digging in. Right? Sometimes we think we're digging deep, but all we're doing is digging in. You're just digging at the surface and just getting you a better footing, right? You saw it every batter last night. They get up to the plate and they, right? Every pitcher gets up to the mound and they got to get their footing right. You ever seen people line up to get on the plane at an airport? I've been in a few airports recently, last couple of days, right? You see people, and their ticket, in the old days, now it's all on the phone. You can't see, but in the old days, everybody had their long paper ticket out, so you could look over somebody's shoulder and see that their ticket says 36B. And they're standing right there in front of you, right in front of everybody. And they got their bag. Digging in, right? It's the funniest thing in the world. It's like everybody has a ticket. The plane is not going to leave until everyone who has a ticket gets on the plane. And then they call the group that you're in, and you can't get there because everybody's blocking the way. Right? What is that? A mentality of scarcity, lack. Right? Now, it's not about the real experience. The plane isn't going to leave without everybody on board. But there's something in our psyche that says, I got to be first. Right? Now, I know if you're Southwest, you're fighting for those seats. I get it. But even there, they queue you up in little A, B's, and C's, and then, grouped numbers by 5, and then everybody's like, oh, are you number 9 or are you number 10? Oh, you're behind me. 9 and 10. What do you mean? Right? It's so ingrained, this tenseness, right? See, we dig in when we feel threatened. We dig in when we feel threatened. We want to protect our position. We got people digging in at school board meetings. We got people digging in about this thing or that thing. We got people digging in, which is not digging deep. It's just anchoring our position. I will not be moved on this. And we ought to ask ourselves, why? What is the consciousness that is behind that idea that I will not be moved on this? You will not make me wrong. You will not, right? You will not threaten my sovereignty. We've been talking about that for a while, that this sense of individuality and you can't make me, right? There's a time to dig in when we're talking about standing up for people, and perhaps many people think that that's what they're doing right now. But I want us to begin to examine the difference between digging in and digging deep. When we dig in, we're anchoring ourselves into a position. When we dig deep, we're moving with curiosity. We dig in when we feel threatened. We dig deep when we feel curious. Hear that? We dig in when we feel threatened. We dig deep when we feel curious. Tell me more about that. I don't understand. Right? Explain that to me. Where does that come from? Why do you feel that way? Why is it so important to you? Right? We dig in with ourselves. Where in me is that energy coming from? Right? You might notice the difference between digging in and digging deep in relationships. You ever try to dig in an argument with your significant other? versus dig deep. Come on, somebody. Right? You dig in. I will not be moved. And the other person is like, and you will not sleep in this bedroom. Right? Usually doesn't work out too well for us. At least not anybody that I know on my side of the equation. Right? But if we dig deep and say, what's behind that? Why are you so passionate? Why is it? What does it mean to you? What happens when you dig deep? You increase the level of intimacy because you're expressing a deeper sense of care. You may not agree. You may not feel the same way. But you invite yourself to find something beyond the surface that connects you with what's happening. Are you feeling what I'm saying? So we're going to have to dig in today. We're going to have to dig in as our society moves forward. We're going to have to dig in order to get back to a common ground with each other because we're going to have to dig deep. We're going to have to dig deep because we've done so much digging into our polarities, into our positions. We're going to have to dig deep to get beyond all of those things. And everywhere that we see somebody digging in, we need to ask the question, what is threatening you? Right? What is threatening your position or your perspective? Where is the sense of scarcity or lack coming from? What is that about? So I have 3 questions that I want us to explore today. One is, how do we become the spiritual beings that we are meant to be? Second question is, how do we know that we are on the spiritual path of higher consciousness? And the third question is, how do we work towards a world that works for all, for the complete emancipation of all humanity? How do we do that? Let's start with the first question. How do we help ourselves, and sometimes others, but I mostly want to focus on ourselves here. How do we help ourselves and others become the spiritual beings that we are truly meant to be? The answer is dig deep. Dig deep. Each of us must put our spirituality first, right? Which is accomplished through a discipline of spiritual practice, which includes the things that we've been studying on Monday night in the 5 Pillars class, affirmative prayer and meditation, a commitment to study and expanding our consciousness, a commitment to service and circulation, right? It requires digging deep on each of those practices, not taking them for granted, but always going deeper with the practice, right? And that when we have a new sense of self, which is free from judgment and criticism of ourselves, then we begin to expand. And as a community, we courageously encourage speech and actions that cherish diversity and inclusivity, an ever-widening circle. We take actions that recognize the strength of all people working together for a world that works for everyone. We have to dig deep in order to become the spiritual beings that we are intended to be. The whole premise of our teaching of this thing called the science of mind, religious science, new thought, awakened, expansive spirituality, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter the name, the brand, but the whole premise of that whole movement of thing, which we're a part of, the whole basis of the teaching is that beyond our liberal and conservative expressions of it today or yesterday, is that we teach how to get at the root cause of whatever ails us. Let me say that again. The basic premise of our teaching, beyond all of the liberal or conservative expressions of it today or yesterday, is that we teach how to get to the root cause of what ails us. We teach how to dig deep using the laws of consciousness. What's really going on in your thoughts? Where is that thought really coming from? Right? You see, what ails us is limited thinking, lack of limitation, unworthiness, small-mindedness, selfishness, a sense of scarcity. What ails us is those thoughts that keep us separate from our good. What ails us is that we think we're not worthy or lovable enough or worthy enough or whatever it might be, right? Fear that separates us from our good. That's what ails us. And it's a disservice to our teaching, if I can say this. It's a disservice to say that the solution to everything that ails us is to just think happy thoughts. Let me say that again. It's a disservice to the depth of our teaching to say, well, the solution is to just think happy thoughts. Oh, you're depressed? Just think happy thoughts. Oh, you're battling with something? Just think happy thoughts. Right? You're struggling to get the job or to find the relationship or to get into that place where you feel happy and successful? Well, just think happy thoughts. Just sprinkle some affirmations on it. Right? You can't put sprinkles on a turd. Never mind. Let me just stop before I get in trouble. Right? It's a disservice because while paying attention to the quality of our thoughts and the attitude and the vibration of our thoughts in terms of, Ernest Holmes says if one tends to be thinking in a particular direction of health and wellness and prosperity, et cetera, then one tends to bring about those experiences. If one tends to be in an ever looping circle of thoughts of depression or lack, limitation, or unworthiness, then one tends to bring about those experiences. So paying attention to the vibration of our thoughts is important. But there's more to it than that. That's just the shallow end of the pool. That's just the warm water that's comfortable to get into, right? You follow what I'm saying? The secret is just the flashy sign that got you to walk in the door. It's not the depth. It's not the deep end of the pool. Hear that? It's not the deep end of the pool. The solution to what ails us is thinking with the principles of consciousness until you get to the root cause of what's at the bottom. Just doing affirmative thinking is putting another mattress on. They taught us this in preschool. The Princess and the Pea. You didn't know they were teaching you new thought, did you? Right? Just put another mattress on top and it'll be all right. And she's like, no, it still doesn't feel right. Now, just put another mattress on top. No, it just still doesn't. Get some pillows. No, it still just doesn't feel right. Why? Because you haven't dug deep to get to the root cause. Oh, help me somebody. Way back in preschool, they taught you the basic principles of new thought. You didn't know you'd be in a church today that was built on the Princess and the Pea. And say, until you get to that thing, whatever that thing is, which is a thought of lack, limitation, unworthiness, disconnection from the source of your good, when you unroot that and you dig it out and you replace it with something else, then everything else will change as a result of it. That's more than just happy thinking. That's digging deep until you get into consciousness and say, what's really going on? I want to help somebody today. And so how do we become the spiritual beings that we are intended to become? Not just by thinking happy thoughts, but by digging deep into the root cause of what's really going on in our consciousness. How do we know? The second question, how do we know whether we're on the path of higher consciousness? Higher consciousness is we tend to think of it as like a departure from the conditions, the everyday conditions, forms and things, but a higher consciousness that is aware of a loving presence in the universe of overflow and the abundance of all things, right? Now, it's not just about thinking happy thoughts, but getting into a higher vibration of consciousness. It's kind of like we have to do a little bit of a mind trick here because I often struggle with the language that we sometimes use when we talk about higher consciousness, because it sounds like our goal is this disembodied separation from the world of experience. That we're somehow going to get into this lofty consciousness of lovingness, and it's just all going to be okay, and it has caused us to be something that we're healing right now and have been for the last decade or so within New Thought, which is that we're so disconnected from the world of things that we're so heavenly minded we're no earthly good. Right? That's not what higher consciousness means. It's actually, the wisdom here is kind of like that. I don't know which one it is, but it's one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies where everything was upside down, right? And they had to realize everything was upside down, and they had to get it back up right the other way. You know what I'm talking about? It's like that. It's like with a little upside down. And when we talk about higher consciousness, what we're really talking about is going deeper. It's really going deeper to the common thing that roots all of us. It's the wisdom that the German Lutheran theologian Paul Tillich said that God was not some being off in the sky, but God was the ground. He called it the ground of all being, Right? He flipped the switch. Paul Tillich knew the wisdom of that Pirates of the Caribbean movie before it ever came out. Right? He flipped the switch and said, no, stop looking up there. God is the ground of all being. It's that from which everything comes. It's a common cause. It's the common root. It's the thing that connects all of us. Matthew Fox says, one river, many wells. Common thread that runs through all of us. And when we talk about higher consciousness, we're not talking about disembodied disassociation from what's happening in the world. We're actually talking about going deep to the river that is running through everything and connecting with that love. There's a threefold nature of the way that humanity works. It's something we've been studying and exploring in the inclusion and privilege series that I've been doing with Reverend Deborah Johnson. And she defines it this way, the threefold nature of humanity. There is a place within us that is so unique. It's a place within us in which we are like nobody else. Your fingerprints and your sense of identity and who you are, the life experience that you have been on. You are like nobody else. You are a unique individualization of the divine. And nobody could categorize you as anything because you are not homogeneous to anything. You understand what I'm saying? You could be categorized and grouped, but even you know that doesn't completely define you. You are a unique expression. There's something within you that says, don't box me in. Don't tell me what I am. I forgot to put on my pearls today for the Atlanta Braves. Because Jock Peterson said, why can't I wear pearls? I want to wear some pearls. Who said pearls are just for women? I'm going to wear some pearls to the game today. I still don't know why he's doing it, but it doesn't, I like the threads on Twitter and Facebook that I'm seeing, and people saying, why is he doing this? Because he decided he wanted to wear pearls. That's why he's doing it. Why does there have to be some other reason than that? Right? So there's a part of you which is unique, like no other individual on the planet that ever has been or ever will be. But there's some other part of you that is grouped with other beings. It's your gender or racial identity or where you live or who you root for or your family of origin or foods that you like. Right? You are like some groups of other people. Right? And the groups that I am like might be different from the groups that you are like. And yet we might have some groups that are the same. Right? We got a group here called SLCA. That's a group where we are like other people. We have a like-minded group of people here. Right? And that there are some, then there's yet a deeper place of us, which is where we are like all other beings. Right? If we go deep enough into the ground of all being, we touch the common root, we touch the common core of that universal thing that moves through us. And all three aspects are the truth of who you are. You are unique. No one is like you. You are like other women or other men or other groups of this kind or that kind or whatever the case may be. You are like some groups of people that you identify with or that other people identify you with. And you are like all beings in some ways. You are a Homo sapien sapien, right? You have blood, you have bone, you have sinew, you have consciousness. All three aspects are the truth of our being, but we have to go, that higher consciousness is not found in some disembodied state of mind. It's found in going to the root cause of that thing which connects all of us together. And we have to be aware as we're moving through this world, the ways in which we are like all beings, the ways in which we are like only some other beings, and the ways in which we are completely unique unto ourselves. And dance between those three realities with compassion and grace and care. That's how we know that we're on the path of higher consciousness. Not because we're separating from each other, but because we are connecting. Am I making sense? So how do we know that we're on the path of higher consciousness? We dig deep. How do we know, or how do we become the spiritual beings that we're intended to become? We dig deep. And the third question, how do we work towards the complete emancipation from all discord of every nature? What do you think the answer is? We dig deep. We dig deep. We see that different faces of the divine in one another, and we take on a willingness to open ourselves to new ways of seeing and new ways of bringing about positive change. We open ourselves to greater creativity and abilities and working with each other to improve lives. We bring this expanded consciousness to our thought, to our discussions, to our actions in all areas of our life. And our global vision, it says, to bring this consciousness to all areas of political, corporate, academic, and social sectors. We support and organize structures that evidence this emerging global consciousness. Right? How do we work to ensure that a world that works for all is moving through us? We dig deep. And that dig deep means that we stay true to the principles, even if it upsets the principalities. Stay true to the principles, even if it upsets the principalities. Stay true to the laws of consciousness. What we study here, what Ernest Holmes discovered, what the Fillmores of the Unity Movement discovered before him, what Quimby discovered in his healing practice, what New Thought has discovered is not wholly unique unto them, but is a universal truth, and it's simply called the laws of consciousness. Thomas Troward, in essence, plagiarized the Hindu scriptures in a Western way so that Western audiences could read it, right? Problem is he didn't give credit, and we got to call him to account on that. I say that to say that it's not unique unto New Thought authors what we're talking about. The laws of consciousness go back to the Hindu scriptures. They go back to African spirituality. They go deep into our roots of humanity, that we've always tapped into this thing. And the principles tell us how to uncover what isn't working and to replace it with something better. It's more than just positive thinking. It's more than just singing happy songs and being affiliated with groups that think like us and vote like us and act like us. My friend Bishop Flunder says if you're doing inclusivity in church, she says if your inclusivity is part of your mission, she says if you look around on Sunday and there isn't somebody that makes you uncomfortable, you're not doing it right. Right? I love that. I love that because it's saying, how big is our circle? Who is not here? Right? Or have we shut them out and said that they're not welcome here? Most churches, I don't think SLCA, by the way, but I'll just tell you this. Most churches, that when they start doing the work, and they say, we want diversity and inclusivity work, you know what they actually want? They want mass assimilation. They want other people that don't look like them on the surface to come and like the same music and like the same prayer and like the same things, but just look a little bit different than them. And then they pat themselves on the back. Look how diverse we're becoming. But you haven't changed a single song. You understand what I'm saying? I know we don't have that problem here, but I'm saying a lot of churches, right, say, let's do some diversity work. And they just mean, let's just get some people of different color in here to like the same things we like and do the same things we do, but not bring who they are, their culture and their traditions and their ways of being, so that our collective corporate worship space becomes more diverse, not just the passive consumption of it by more diverse people. You understand what I'm saying? And so we have to stay true to the principles, because it's easy to just start affiliating with a group that thinks like us, but we want to stay true to the principles even if it upsets the principalities. In other words, keep teaching and keep digging deep into the laws of consciousness, even if it disrupts the organizations that have been built to venerate those same principles. Ooh, I just stepped on something there. Why? Because organizations by nature always seek to close themselves off. Organizations by nature always seek to define themselves against the world. But when you stay true to the principles, you keep opening the doors, you keep expanding the boundary, you keep making the borders porous and say, what else is there? Because principles not bound by precedent. So where else can we go? Who else can we include? How else might this look? Instead of getting into a defensive position of, we've figured it out and it looks like this. And it looks like the people who pray like this and talk like this and do like this. And we are distinct from them because we've figured it out. Right? That's the reason. Okay. Right? Paul was controversial in the day. Bishop Plunder talked about Paul last week. It got me thinking. Paul was controversial because the church, the early Christians, were a Jewish sect. Right? And who was going to take over from Jesus? It wasn't Paul. Paul never met Jesus. Who was going to take over the church? The church, which again was a Jewish community. James, his brother, James. James was the bishop of bishops. James was the most beloved. James was the one who was going to take over the institution and the organization and keep the principles and keep the standards and keep it going the way that they had designed it to go for the community that they had defined that it was for. And all along, here comes Paul. Never met the man Jesus. Paul wasn't devoted to the man Jesus. He was devoted to the principle of Christ. And he said, oh, guess what? Over here, you don't have to be circumcised. Over here, you don't have to be Jewish. Over here, everyone is welcome. Over here, you belong. And you is everyone. Over here, we're expanding the circle to include everyone. He was devoted to the principle, not the organization. Now, the church has gone a long way to forget what Paul did in creating a church of inclusivity. And I think we're on the path of trying to bring that back, as are others. You follow what I'm saying today? Yeah. Something deeper is calling us to make a deeper connection to all of humanity, to make a contribution, to make the world a better place. And it's going to require of us all, at every moment that we feel the urge to pull in rank and to protect ourselves against others and to identify ourselves against those people who don't think like us. There's a lot of that going on in the world, but the answer and the way through all of that is not to shore up our base. It's going to be to dig deep and to find ourselves into the common cause of all humanity. There's a 13th century poet named Bani Adam. Bani Adam says this. He says, human beings are members of a whole in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain. Again, human beings are members of a whole in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain. Something is calling us deeper, to dig deep, and to connect with all of humanity and to make that a part of what we are doing here. It will constantly, if we are devoted to it, stretch us and challenge us and cause us to pause and say, are we ready for that? Are we ready to, as Bishop Plunder said last week, are we ready to wait and save a seat at the table for those who don't think like us? Or are we going to dig in and serve the meal to only the people who agree with us? That's the challenge of creating beloved community. That's the challenge of creating the divine community. And finally, I'll close this morning with another poem. It's quite famous. I've known it for a long time, and I knew it as a teen as anonymous, but I'm happy to learn that the author is James Patrick Kinney, who wrote it at the beginning of the Civil Rights Movement. He grew up in Ohio, and he grew up in a redlined neighborhood. And he had learned, much to his dismay, that there was a law on the books that said people of color could not be in the neighborhood after dark, which is actually a law they also had in Lake Oswego for where my former church was for a long time. The people could not be in the neighborhood people of color could not be in the neighborhood after dark. And so he went to city council and he said, why does this law exist? This was in the 1960s. Why does this law exist? And they said, well, because there are no people of color here. And listen to this. He said, because there are no people of color here, and so if we see a person of color, they must be up to no good. So James Patrick Kinney said, all right. And so he and some other friends went and they found a family, an African-American family that was willing to move to the neighborhood, and they helped them, and they moved them in, they became good friends with them, and then he went back to city council and he said, your law is unjust. There is a family of color in the neighborhood, and they are up to good. And so the city council reluctantly changed the law, but they weren't happy about it. And out of that experience and the struggles that that family continued to have and that he continued to have in the fight, and he joined the civil rights movement, he wrote this poem. It's called The Cold Within. 6 humans trapped by happenstance in bleak and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story's told. Their dying fire in need of logs, the first man held his back, for on the faces around the fire, he noticed that one was black. The next man, looking across the way, saw not one from his church, and could not bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The third man sat in tattered clothes and gave his coat a hitch. Why should his stick be put to use to warm the idle rich? The rich man sat back and thought of the wealth that he had in store, and how he could keep what he had earned from the lazy and shiftless poor. The black man's face bespoke of revenge as the fire passed from sight, for all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. The last man of this forlorn group did not accept for gain. Giving to only those who gave was how he played the game. And so their logs held tight in death's still hands was proof of human sin. They did not die from the cold without. They died from the cold within. And so we have an opportunity in this community as we continue to grow and expand as a spiritual community, as we continue to outreach across the country, as we continue to broadcast this message in partnership with our beloved denomination, the Centers for Spiritual Living, and make that commitment to a world that works for all, to dig deep, to remember the laws of consciousness are what we teach. And so there is no boundary that keeps us from. There is no justice issue that we cannot engage ourselves in. There is no taboo area which we cannot go, because consciousness is everything. And what we teach is how consciousness works. And so it's upon us to examine the ways in which consciousness has created the world that we have, and how we can use the same laws of consciousness to create the world that we desire. The world that the Spirit within us tells us is possible. So for this and more in this prayer, in this moment, I invite you to take a deep breath in and anchor the divine truth of this digging deep today. And so it is. Thank you. Peace and blessings.
Oh my goodness. That was a lot. I know that even though I was here physically this morning to hear this tremendous message, that this is one that I will go home and listen to more than one time. And I'm sure you feel the same. Yeah. There was just so much that you gave us this morning. As we are all digging deeper, desiring to take that deeper dive. And so at this time, we want to acknowledge and celebrate any first-time visitors that we may have with us this morning. If you are here for the first time, please stand and let us recognize you. Thank you for choosing to be with us this morning. You may be seated. Our ushers are now handing you a card, and inside is a personal note just for you. Please join a welcome ambassador for fellowship in the lobby following this service. We thank you for choosing the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We welcome each of you who may be in need of prayer this morning. We don't want anyone to leave carrying any sense of suffering or burden. There will be practitioners available to pray with you. They will be on both sides of the room as well as in the back. And if you don't see one, just ask and they will be pointed out. As we enter now into our grateful giving portion of the service, we want to thank each of you who continue faithfully to give to SLCA. It is because of your contributions that we can continue to spread this wonderful message into the world, a message of oneness. If you were inspired by the message today, please consider becoming a pledger or give what is on your heart to give today. You can conveniently give on our website. The information is before you on the screen. You can text your gift to 404-800-9467. You may also give with a credit card using our digital program with the QR code, which is on the back of the seats in front of you. And then our ushers will be walking through the aisle shortly to receive your cash or check contribution. Please join me as we say together our grateful giving affirmation. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is.
Thank you, Baji. That's music for our ushers to walk to. Yeah. They're starting that dance audition right now. And this is also going to be our closing song. So now, will you join with me and stand as we sing together our closing song? We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. Yes, we do. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. Yeah, I love that idea. A world that works for everyone. I know you feel that. Yeah. A world that works for everyone. Everyone. Just keep saying that all day long. And have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hey, Chris.